as the headquarters technical lead for the U.S. Agency for International Development project in Lebanon, with language and math instructions and integrate social and emotional learning in all aspects of brain. First, these activities. In March, she led a 2-week intensive professional exchange for English language professionals around the world to integrate social and emotional learning of their work and lives. Before learning, Dr. McBride was an associate professor at the University of USA. During that time, the research education focused on computer-assisted language learning, intercultural competence, and moral language efficiency. She is one of the 3 idiomas published by the University of 2018. La doctora McBride es especialista en educación de la organización sin fines de lucro for Learning, donde ha liderado con iniciativas para mejorar el currículum, el desarrollo profesional de profesores en el mundo. Ella también lideró un proyecto de la Agencia de los Estados Unidos para el Desarrollo Internacional, el Líbano, para mejorar la enseñanza de matemáticas y de la lengua e integrar el aprendizaje social y emocional en todas las actividades escolares desde primero a sexto grado. En marzo impartió un curso intensivo a profesores de inglés en el programa de intercambio a nivel internacional para integrar el aprendizaje social y emocional en sus vidas y en su trabajo. Antes de estar en la organización For Learning, fue profesor en la Universidad de San Luis, Missouri, en Estados Unidos, y durante ese tiempo sus investigaciones y publicaciones se enfocaron en las líneas de aprendizaje de una lengua asistido por computadoras, competencia intercultural y dominio de la habilidad oral. Ella es una de las coautoras del libro A enseñar una guía práctica para los profesores de inglés, publicado por Pearson México en 2018. Bueno, I don't know, Dr. McBride. I'm going to remind you that you have just 35 minutes for your talk and 15 minutes at the end for questions. Les recordamos que los 45 minutos es de su conferencia y al final si tienen preguntas, comentarios, todos son muy bienvenidos. Okay?
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you to those of you who have come to this talk today. I wish I could be there with you. I saw the program of this conference, and it's really impressive. So I'm sure it's been a wonderful 3 days, and I'm delighted to be able to join you at the end. So as they said, my name is Dr. Kara McBride, and you can see on the screen, I hope, the PowerPoint that I am presenting. You can communicate with me through the chat. I do have that open. And also in a few minutes, if you're in the room and want to communicate, I'll give you some way to talk through the phone. At the end of my talk, I'm going to be sharing a handout with you as well. So what we see on the screen here is the template, one of the templates that we use where I work at World Learning, but here we have a somewhat more maybe pleasant looking template. I just want to confirm, can you see the PowerPoint? Can someone confirm in the chat? Yeah, okay, great, thank you. All right, so social and emotional learning is many things. But among them, it has to do with feeling calm when you want to feel calm. So I really like this picture of the pine trees because I like pine trees and trees make me feel calm. So we're going to stick with this template. As was mentioned in my introduction, I have had the opportunity to work in social emotional learning, or SEL, on multiple occasions, but I'm going to focus on two for this presentation. One is a program funded by the United States Association for International Development, USAID, in Lebanon. It's a 5-year program called Kitabi, or Quality Instruction Towards Access and Basic Education Improvement. It's in the country of Lebanon, and we have been improving early grade instruction and integrating social and emotional learning into all aspects of children's school days. And then I also, in the March, last month, had the opportunity to be a lead facilitator for a 2-week exchange with 25 English teaching experts from around the world who came together to DC, and we worked on all kinds of aspects of integrating social and emotional learning in their work and their lives. And I know at least 2 of them are here today with us, which is amazing. One of our participants, Adel from Egypt, and another one named Sa from Myanmar. So thanks so much for joining us, and I hope they, add some to the conversation as they see fit. So my agenda for today is first just to say hello, hear a little bit from you. Then I'm going to tell you a story that has to do with social and emotional learning, and it's a way of me sort of talking about social and emotional learning through an example that I thought was pretty nice. If you don't mind, if you can mute your, thank you, your microphones if you're, until we get to the discussion part. Then we'll, after seeing an example or two, we'll focus in on exactly how do we define social and emotional learning. And then we'll get to the business of how do you integrate it into your language teaching. Everything we're talking about today can be used in teaching English as a foreign language or any language. And we'll wrap up with a bit of talking about teacher well-being. So, I wish I could be with you today, but in lieu of that, I'd like to offer you the chance to answer this question and say hello. So if you are in front of a computer, you can just type into the chat, but if not, maybe you can use your phone to use this code and just quickly write, what does social and emotional learning mean to you? Or you'll see it also says, ¿qué significa el aprendizaje social y emocional para usted? I speak Spanish, so you can answer in any language, either language that's convenient to you. So I'm not looking for a correct answer. I'm just curious what the term means to you. So I'll wait until I have at least one answer. Give me your thoughts. Maybe in the chat. No, nobody's written in the chat. Maybe, oh, okay. Ser más empatado con el otro, that's a good one. That is definitely part of it. What else do we have? Manejo de las emociones para fomentar un aprendizaje sin tensión y que sea significado. Nice, I like that. That's a very nice way of putting it. Inteligencia emocional y buscar estrategias para ser resilientes. Great, so resiliency, emotional intelligence, moving our students from fight or flight to read and write. I love that, it rhymes even, that's amazing. I'm gonna borrow that, whoever gave that to me, thank you. Connecting with others, absolutely. So that's wonderful to know, that, you know, the people in the room and attending definitely have a sense of what social and emotional learning means. And there are many skills that we can mean when we're talking about social and emotional learning. So each teacher, you know, needs to decide where they're focusing, what's most important for their students. So thank you very much for your input. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story as a way of, you know, kind of getting into social and emotional learning. I was excited about this presentation. I wanted to make a nice PowerPoint to go along with it. So I got out my computer and I wrote in the little screen, well-being. And I was curious, you know, if there were any PowerPoint templates that fit. And what showed up was this PowerPoint template that is made by Microsoft. And it's just for teachers to use in any class. And it's about feeling overwhelmed and talking about, you know, being able to work with your emotions and calm yourself down when necessary. So we're going to look at a little bit of it because it's a really interesting thing, what they have here. Pause on this. So on slide number 2, they have this video that they made specifically for this PowerPoint. And on the side, we see that it says that sometimes we have big emotions and that noticing those emotions and naming them can help us take action to feel better. This is amazing advice. It's very basic in some ways, but also, you know, it's really needed and it doesn't always happen. So then the question, it's kind of like a pre-listening activity. It says, what emotions do you notice when you watch this video? So we're going to watch just about a minute of the video. It's kind of interesting to see, and then we'll pull out some of the elements of social and emotional learning instruction that we can see in this video. So let's watch together.
Inside. Naming your emotions can help you feel more in control and ready to look for solutions.
I'm going through so much right now. My nana is coming into town, so we all had to stay up late last night cleaning. And my baby brother, he's teething, so he's also very much sensitive. And I wanted to try out for the play, but I thought I was going to forget the lines. And
Yeah.
is the diorama for history due today?
Could you slow down a little bit? This is a lot of information to take in at one time. This amount of information is overwhelming.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel. I feel overwhelmed.
Okay, so he feels overwhelmed. Let's go to the next slide. In the next slide, they actually ask you, you know, connecting with the pre-listening question, they ask, what emotions did you notice? And then they have a list and they let you know there should be at least 4. And then they write down the target emotion at the bottom. Overwhelmed is maybe an emotion, it's a little more complex. And so if this is an activity used with young children, they probably don't know this word yet. They probably don't know how to spell it. And so we can guess that maybe 1, 2, and 3 might be a little bit easier emotions to show. I like how they have the captions in the video, which, you know, helps all kinds of people to follow the video. And we actually see the word overwhelmed 3 different places on the screen. So that's all kinds of different reinforcement for what we're learning here. Then there's another screen where it asks how the feelings monster helps Ash to learn more about his feelings. And so that would be an opportunity if we were in a class together, we could have this discussion. A little hard over video, so I'm just going to go ahead and write them in. So one of the things the feeling monster does is he asks Ash about his feelings. And this already is a very important thing. in order for us to regulate our emotions, we need to be able to be aware of them and have the space to talk about them sometimes. And so, as was mentioned, I've been doing this work in Lebanon in grades 1 through 6. And it really was a change for some of the teachers to just preserve a little time in the class to even ask that question of their students. Number 2, the feelings monster reflects back to Ash. He's feeling overwhelmed, and the feeling monster helps him process that information by recognizing how he's feeling and helping him identify the feelings. The feelings monster says, oh, that's kind of overwhelming. And that helps Ash to say, yeah, that's how I feel. I feel overwhelmed. Naming the feeling is very important, again, for this identification. If you feel overwhelmed but don't really realize that you feel overwhelmed, then you can't take the proper steps to change that. But if you know I feel overwhelmed, maybe you know what to do now that you know how you feel. Another thing the monster does is normalize the feeling, especially later in the video. It's important for people who are having a hard time to feel okay talking about it and to not feel ashamed of their feelings. So, oh, it's normal. Makes it easy. If you could put your mic on mute, please. And then providing some guidance. You didn't see that part, but later the feelings monster gives some advice too. So that was my little story. I just found it amazing that Microsoft has a template. Like, that's how central social and emotional learning has become. It's something that even PowerPoint has ready for you, so there's a lot of resources in the world. I will at the end share some of those with you in a document. So, but the expression seeing the forest for the trees. So since we have a tree theme today, I thought I'd talk about the forest and the trees, some definitions. So in the United States and in many other countries, the organization that's best known for social and emotional learning is called CASEL, which stands for Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. So they have this framework. It's really beautiful website. I wonder if I can pull it up quickly for you. That it they give definitions of these 5 major skills. And let me just show that to you for a second, and you can explore it later if you're interested. It's a wonderful website. They have a video that explains social and emotional learning, and then they have this very fancy interactive thing where you can click on self-awareness, read the definition, and so on. So I encourage you to look at that if you're interested, but let's just keep it simple. So the main skills that they focus on, it's really like groups of skills. So the first group is self-awareness. Oh, I feel overwhelmed, for example. Self-management is another set of skills where when you realize you feel a little bad, then you can do something, to calm yourself down or focus yourself if you're not focused, etc. Next, social awareness. So that is, if I'm in any place with other people, I can see what's happening. I can be aware of feelings and events and respond in an informed way. Responsible decision-making. That is an area where, of those 25 teachers we worked with intensively last week, that was really interesting to them, especially the ones who work with teenagers. Really important stuff there. And then the last one, relationship skills. So how to get along, how to deal with conflict, how to collaborate. all of those. Now, it's worth noting that the name of CASEL includes in it academic. So they're very interested in social and emotional, but also in the academic side of school too. And there's so much evidence to show that when a person feels okay, is not panicking, is not traumatized, they can focus and they can learn. If they don't feel okay, if they can't focus, they can't learn. So it really helps academic learning in addition to helping you get along with other people and etc. So another question we might ask, you know, even Microsoft is doing social and emotional learning these days. Why is it so important today? You might, you know, I almost asked you to send your thoughts about that one too, but you know, basically the world is getting more complex. We've got environmental disasters, increasing political strife in the world, increasing differences between the haves and the have-nots, lots of really sticky problems and COVID. So yeah, around the world, we all need more help with our emotions and with getting along with each other. So that's, you know, why it has become so important. It always was important. It's even more important now. So you will want to integrate this into your teaching if you can. And so let's look at a couple ways of doing that. So you basically have two options. One is, well, option number one is to include social and emotional learning activities with other things you're doing. So let's say on a normal day, sometimes you're doing a writing activity, and then you do a grammar activity, and then at another moment you might do a meditation activity. Especially at the beginning of the class, you can do just a few minutes of deep breathing, visualization, and just even a couple minutes of that can really help people to calm down and focus and get in the right frame of mind for learning. So that's, you know, one way of addressing it. And let me show you a couple examples that we did like this in the Kitabi project. So these were PowerPoints that teachers could use for teaching grades 1 through 6 English classes. We also did it, of course, in Arabic, French, math. And we actually taught explicitly the words calm down, and we taught them a process. So first, when you're freaking out, stop. That's step number one. And then try to identify, how do you feel? Okay, you need to know how you feel in order to respond correctly to that. And then step number 3, breathe deeply. That's it. That's the whole process. It didn't take very long for the English teachers to include this in their lesson, a little practice with the kids, and you're good to go. It can make an enormous difference. And it's very simple. And then later, a few days later, we return, you know, because you don't learn skills just in a few minutes. You need practice. So we would give them scenarios. For example, imagine that you're working on this beautiful painting and then it gets messed up. What would you do? Or this one, we were also trying to, you know, show gender equity, and she is feeling sad because she misses her father, or I actually forget if her father didn't come to pick her up on time at the right time, something. But anyway, talking about, you know, contexts that children can relate to and helping them think through how to deal with the challenges they have. So that's option number 1 that we just talked about, where you have, now it's the language lesson, now it's SEL, language, SEL, like that. And option number 2 is to sort of integrate it more, okay? And this is, you know, I mean, we usually don't have a completely separate grammar and a completely separate writing. They're usually integrated somewhat, and we can also integrate social and emotional learning. So you could have a writing activity that also included a major element of collaboration, for example. And this example from Microsoft, you know, I feel like is a good version of that. It's really, you know, it gives opportunities for working on vocabulary. It allows you to, you know, discuss topics. Maybe here you're talking about, you know, body vocabulary, and this could be a great way of working on social and emotional learning and English at the same time. Here's one we did in Katabi in Lebanon. The English goal of the week was food, grocery stores, food. And the SEL goal of the week was on self-management and using like to-do lists and other tools to regulate yourself. So we just have this little question here, you know, we're working on food vocabulary, but at the same time showing how a shopping list can help you, you know what you're doing and do it quickly. So I think this is, what would it be? The bakery section. Hey, I got it right. Okay. And then later in the week too, we talk about, you know, it's good to prioritize, and we talk with the children about what that means and what that looks like. You can see here in the top right, it's a brain break. So we did both in these lessons. Sometimes we just took time out and just talked about the SEL skill. And sometimes we did more of the combination, the integration. So whether you're doing it separately or integrated, it's really a continuum of how you do that. And another example, actually, this one came from the math team. And in the social and emotional skills that we were teaching the grade 1 through 6 students is cognitive control, yeah, executive functioning. How do you continue studying or working when there are distractions? So on this slide, we have some distractions, and the teacher talks about them. The teacher says, you know, sometimes you're trying to get something done, but there are distractions. So what do you do? And then you can talk with the children or young adults about, you know, what do you do? And then there's practice. So this was very early grade, and they were still learning, you know, just to order numbers. And so the activity is working on the same math skill, but while there are those distractions. Okay, so that's, I hope you're feeling like, oh, that's pretty doable, and yeah, maybe I can do it. But you may also be feeling like, well, but it was hard enough to become a language teacher, and now I have to become a psychology expert and understand all of this too. So that's a legitimate question, and it is a lot. And yes, you should understand some. You don't have to understand, you know, the whole field of psychology, but some basic information can help you decide how to integrate this. So this is a very simple diagram of the brain, and in the references that I'll be giving you, there's a really great video that's short and straight to the point that explains this very well. But the basic idea is that you have 3 basic layers of your brain, and the one in the middle is the one in the center is the most primitive reptilian brain. It is responsible for keeping you alive. And so one of you already mentioned fight or flight, right? So back when we were essentially reptiles, you know, if there was a threat, we needed to fight or we needed to run or flee, right? And that, because survival depends on split-second decisions, this part of our brain works instantly and without, you know, without like decisions, right? You just instantly flee or you instantly fight. And then over the hundreds of thousands, millions of years of evolution, we got even more complex thinking structures. So the top part of our brain that we see here in the neocortex, that's where we do the deep thinking, critical thinking, careful thinking. But when the center, the reptilian brain, takes over, the logical brain goes offline. That is very important for us to understand, because it helps us understand that when people feel bad, they don't act logically, and they can't. They can't. So, for a person to be able to manage their emotions, they need to recognize, oh, I'm in fight or flight mode. I want my logical brain back. And I know that what I can do is breathe deeply and other things, of course. That's not the only technique, but yeah, so understanding that there are these competing systems in our brain, and some operate sometimes, but not always, that's very useful. And it helps us explain our own behavior and our students' behavior. And when we understand our behavior, then we can, you know, work with it and improve what's happening. So just another slide on my explaining psychology for you. There's this expression in English, and just like that other one that's cool because it rhymes, this one is cool because it rhymes too. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So the most famous example of this that I think probably everyone is familiar with is the Pavlov's dog phenomenon, where if you show a dog food and then you ring a bell, then the dog starts associating those so much and so automatically that after a while, all you have to do is ring a bell and the dog starts salivating automatically. It's not logical, but it's what the dogs do. And it's what humans do, essentially. So let's say, for example, that a child is exposed to an abusive father. And the father was very tall and looked a certain way. And when the father was angry, he would use a certain tone of voice. Or what's going to happen, even when that child is an adult, if they, you know, carry a lot of the trauma and haven't resolved it, then that person, even as an adult, when they see certain kind of men and hear that certain kind of tone of voice, they're going to panic. They're going to get into fight or flight mode. They're going to get triggered, as we call it these days, right? It's just an automatic response. It's not logical, but it's how people work. And when we understand that, that allows us to work with the behavior. It allows us to not be angry at the behavior, but just work in a constructive way with it. So here's a table I want to share with you, and I'll also give you the reference for this, of what does fight, flight, and freeze look like in a classroom. Here is the list. Take a moment to look at these examples. And you know, this is almost the entire list of bad kid behavior, right? And I really was struck by this table, and you know, some people I've shared it with were also very struck by this table, because traditionally when children or young people or, you know, any student does this in class, we get angry. We feel disrespected. Maybe we punish them. But these might just be trauma responses. And if the student is doing one of these behaviors, not because they hate you as a teacher, but because they are experiencing automatic trauma, then as an educator, ideally, we would understand the source of the problem, be more understanding, more constructive, and less angry. So I feel like there's a lot of wisdom in this table. All right. So that just to mention that goes with another saying that is that you should focus on the child, not on the problem. So the problem is just something that the child has. You want to focus on the human being and work with the human being. So now what about your own well-being? It's very important. The job of a teacher is an extremely difficult job, very demanding, often stressful, and our profession is one where there's a lot of burnout. And please don't burn out. It's not good for you, and it's not good for your students. So you need to take care of yourself. And it's true. Now you don't just have to teach language, you have to teach social and emotional learning to some extent too. That's a big job. So you need to be in good shape to do that. So what can you do to support your own well-being? Well, you can do some of these techniques. You know, you yourself, when you start feeling upset, can stop, identify your feelings, and breathe deeply. That alone can have an enormous impact on a person's well-being. Taking breaks with some regularity, an enormous effect. There are many, you know, different ways of doing social and emotional learning for yourself. Another important thing to do is to work with your colleagues. You know, they're one of your best support systems possibly. So, you know, the same kinds of things that Feelings Monster did, you can do activities like that with your colleagues. You know, in a meeting, formal or informal, some of the same behaviors have a big effect. You can ask people about their feelings, leave a space to discuss that. You can, you know, recognize and reflect how someone is feeling and, you know, normalize it. Say, I see how you feel. That's, you know, that's a normal response. Naming it, of course, too. And then I want to put the fifth one here is to keep it positive and solutions oriented. I was really struck by when we were with the 25 teachers in Washington, D.C., a lot of them talked about how sometimes teachers' meetings or the teachers' lounge can just sort of focus only on the negative. And you just, you know, I have a complaint, you have a complaint. It feels good initially to, you know, I'll just kind of share your complaints. But, you know, that can kind of drive you downwards after a while. and I wanted to mention that the group of 25 and the facilitators, we all went to the TESOL conference in Portland, Oregon after our time in DC. And it was a theme that I saw a lot at the conference too. People talking about social and emotional learning, but also the danger of those conversations just being complaint sessions. So, you know, it's a good thing to keep in mind that that can happen. And we don't, you know, it's better if you sort of recognize the problem, but focus mostly on what can we do about it. So, yeah, I will put the URL in the chat in case that is easier for you. But let me also, there's also this URL here that you can see, which is, gosh, I have too many windows open. But this is a Google Doc that just lets you, you know, it gives you some of my favorite resources. And I have little quick descriptions of what each one of them are. So as soon as I find my chat box again on my computer, I will put that in the chat too. And let's see. I just, oh, there it is. Okay. So here is the URL in case that's a more useful way of getting it for you. So I hope you found some of that useful. And I just, again, want to thank the organizers so much for this invitation, and thank you for your attendance. And that is all, and we can have a discussion now if you have any comments or questions.
If you have any questions, please. ¿Hay alguna pregunta, algún comentario que quieran hacer a la doctora Carmen Pay?
Oh, I see at least one other person from our group too. Nice to, oh, I'm pretty, we've got, wow, quite the, Adel, one of the participants online has raised his hand, so sure, go ahead, Adel, or yeah, if you can unmute yourself and talk or write in your comment or question.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
How are you? How are you all? Very interesting topic, of course. We've been to DC in social emotional learning topic, and we went back with many friends. We engaged together socially and emotionally. So we have a double meaning of our course. We're talking about, we're first engaged in this course in order to benefit our students, to know how can we deal with them, how we can engage our students in our classrooms, and how we can get them involved in our activities by understanding how they feel, how they can work with other students, each other, and the students and teacher in the same way. And after all, we found ourselves, you can say, engaged in something bigger, which is being emotionally and socially engaged with our colleagues all over the world. Really, it's very beneficial for us. My first idea about social emotional learning was just communication. When I came to DC, I put in my mind one thing is that the whole course is about communication, how to communicate with each other socially and emotionally. And I started with this, but day after day, after learning about Castle and the different competencies, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making, all these topics made my mind open to all ideas about how to get more involved in class and how to understand the mentality and the mindset of our students. Really, I'm thankful for people who made this true. All people, including Kara, including my colleague, because they made me think about the whole world. It's like a small village. We can get connected together quickly. So by the way, I invited them for something like that, a Zoom like that, in which I'm going to benefit other colleagues in Egypt here. And I decided to get involved with other relos around the world, with Central Africa, with Pakistan, Relo Pakistan, and Belgrade Relo, with ideas like SEL, civil communication, and any other topics that benefits our teachers all around the world. Really, Kara, I'm very grateful for your work, for your efforts, and for the team who worked hard in order to get us into the social emotional learning topic.
Wow, that's great to hear. So as you heard, that one of our colleagues from Egypt, and it's really interesting. One of the things that was amazing to work with, it was 25 teachers from 25 different countries, you know, and these are skills that, of course, the activities need to be adapted to what works with your students and what's important to them. But many times very simple activities that really, you know, are fun, engaging, and can be very helpful. So one of the resources that I included in that handout I sent you is, it's called like the playbook, and it has many very good resources, activities, simple lesson plans, simple activities for you to look at. Thank you.
Any other participants would you like to ask a question? Dr. Conrad? Well, I don't know. Questions in my Zoom chat? Well, Dr. Kara, I would like to thank for the significant conference that reminds us of emotions, because we know that teaching is very important, but also learning. Nowadays, we can say next we get increase. We are facing as teachers, but not only teachers, but also students. As you mentioned, sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we confuse the students' feelings, and we can think that they are in a way that they don't like our classes, or that the classes that we prepare for them, they are boring, but sometimes we don't know what is happening behind those emotions. And with this talk, we can learn some strategies that you mentioned, that is very important to name those emotions, but also the strategies, and also I thank you for sharing the media and the links that you also share that can help us if we would like to include social and emotional learning in our classes, in our curriculum. I think that this is a very important topic, not only as teachers, but as human beings. Teachers are humans, and we are facing also those emotions that you mentioned about kids, but not only kids, we as in this moment that we are adults, we are also facing these emotions. So thank you for being in this Congreso Internacional de Investigación y Docencia, class for Dr. McBride.
Thank you. And just one last word. You have my email. If, if some of you become more and more interested in this, I can put you together with some other teachers. As you can see, we have colleagues from Nigeria, from Mauritius, from Egypt, from Myanmar. Some of the people were from Guatemala, Venezuela, etc. So if you're interested in maybe teacher exchanges or something like that, I would love to be able to facilitate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. So nice to see all of you. That's awesome. Bye.
Sí. El OBS no reproduce un video. Pero lo van a proyectar desde. No, va de OBS. Desde OBS. Sí, es que por el audio, por ya me dijeron que no tienen. Okay. Sí, es que lo hicieron los alumnos como un recopilatorio. Que no lo hicimos nosotros tal cual. Listo, a la hora que guste, ya tenemos todo. Ya que nos dé la pauta de la maestra. Ahorita le comento. Sí, porque la transmisión en Facebook sigue.
Pasa, amigo. Si me ves que te estoy estorbando, nada más dímelo. Sí, si te estoy estorbando, nada más dímelo y me puedo hacer un lado. Me voy a salir afuera.
Estamos en introducción.
Bueno, ¿en la una? No, fácil, bueno. Sí, una persona viendo. No, pero allá está para. Mira, dale en el estómago. Voy a hacer panel.
Muy buenas tardes, bienvenidas a la primera congreso de investigación en ciencia en lenguas modernas, organizado por la Facultad de Lenguas Campus Tuxtla. Antes de iniciar con los eventos, solicitamos atentamente que a partir de este momento para los sus aparatos de radiocomunicación en modo silencio como vibrador para no interrumpir las actividades. Por su colaboración, muchas gracias. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas sean a la cultura del primer Congreso Internacional de Investigación y Docencia en Lenguas Modernas. Este acto lo preside la maestra Marina Peralán, directora de la Facultad de Lenguas. Vamos con la grata presencia del doctor Benjamín Gutiérrez, presidente de la Facultad de Gobiernos Reclamía. Nos acompaña la maestra Marcela Alvarado, secretaria académica de la Facultad de Lenguas Campus Tuxtla. Contamos con la grata presencia de la maestra Karina Guadalupe Díaz Medusa, coordinadora general del primer Congreso Internacional de Investigación y Docencia en Lenguas Modernas. Agradecemos la compañía de la doctora Mónica Miranda Mechú, coordinadora del grupo de la maestría de la Cerrando la mesa de presidium, nos acompaña el doctor Oscar Gustavo Chamona Pérez, coordinador de educación continua de la Facultad de Lenguas Campus Tuxtla. De la misma forma, queremos agradecer también la presencia de todos nuestros invitados especiales, conferencistas magistrales del equipo de la red de proyectos académicos en lenguas extranjeras, docentes e investigadores, así como todos los y las estudiantes que nos acompañan. Para comenzar, la maestra Marina Díaz Pedrosa, coordinadora general del Congreso Internacional de Investigación y Docencia de Lenguas Modernas, nos dará unas palabras.
Buenas tardes a todas y todos. Para mí es un honor estar encabezando todo este comité que preparó durante estos 3 días el evento. Este primer Congreso Internacional en Investigación y Docencia en Lenguas Modernas, por parte de la Facultad de Lenguas Campus Tuxtla. También un honor para mí, egresada de esta licenciatura, formada con mis docentes, y ahora pues también estar en estos proyectos de investigación y poder dar a conocer lo que estamos haciendo de investigación y docencia es fundamental. Ya lo comentaba antes, lo hemos comentado entre nuestros estudiantes, que pues ellos se están formando en esto y me da muchísimo gusto haber tenido a tantos y tantas dentro de este evento, ya que para ustedes son el futuro de la investigación y por qué no socializarlo en este ambiente de cordialidad, todas estas actividades que tuvimos, no nada más académicas sino culturales, y olvidarnos un poquito de que la aula tiene que ser estricta, de que tiene que ser nada sistémica, porque también tenemos estos espacios abiertos donde la investigación y la docencia es esto, es apertura, es socialización, es ir pasando de mano a mano todo lo que hacemos día con día y no olvidarnos de que también antes que todos seres humanos estamos ávidos de aprender. Entonces, muchísimas gracias. Para mí también es un honor informar que todo salió bastante bien. Muchas gracias también por acompañarnos en este acto de clausura. Y pues esperamos vernos en otras ediciones. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias a la maestra Karina Guadalupe Díaz Pedrosa, coordinadora general del Congreso Internacional de Investigación y Docencia en Lenguas Modernas. A continuación, daremos la palabra al doctor Gutiérrez, presidente de la Red de Grupos Académicos de Lenguas Extranjeras, quien la
miembros de la red de cuerpos académicos de lenguas extranjeras, quiero agradecer a la UNACH y en especial a la Facultad de Lengua representada por la maestra Marina Herrera, directora de la misma, a la maestra Karina Díaz Pedrosa, coordinadora general de este congreso, a la doctora Viva Maciariegos, a la doctora Mónica Miranda, a Lourdes Gutiérrez, a la doctora Ana María Díaz de la Garza, sus amigas y colegas miembros de la red, por todo el apoyo brindado para realizar nuestra 36ª Asamblea Nacional de la Becaria, a todo el cuerpo docente y alumnos que nos han brindado su apoyo para la realización de las ponencias, conferencias, talleres y eventos culturales durante este primer Congreso Internacional de Investigación y Docencia en Lenguas Modernas. A todos los miembros de la Recale que se dieron cita para realizar sus mesas de trabajo de manera presencial o virtual, quiero expresarles mi más sincero agradecimiento y reconocimiento por su interés y dedicación para mantener activa la Recale. Me gustaría pedirles a todos que brindáramos un aplauso al doctor Marín, que nos acompaña el día de hoy, que es fundador y pionero en la red, creador de esta misma, y hoy nos acompaña. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a su mensaje, doctor Gutiérrez, presidente de la Red de Grupos Académicos de Lenguas Extranjeras. Enseguida cedemos el micrófono a la maestra Marina Bernal, directora de la Facultad de Lenguas Campus Tuxtla, que nos dará unas palabras y el acto de clausura de este gran evento.
Pues buenas tardes a todos. De verdad estamos muy gustosos y ha sido un placer para nosotros recibirlos en estos 3 días. Ha sido un congreso, es nuestro primer congreso internacional, investigación y docencia en lenguas modernas, que se ha hecho con mucho cariño, con muchas ganas, mucho trabajo por parte de nuestro comité organizador. Que agradezco bastante y al staff que ha estado al pie del cañón estos 3 días. Agradecemos también al doctor Benjamín Gutiérrez, al director de la Red de Cursos Académicos de Lenguas Extranjeras, así como al comité ejecutivo, la doctora María de Lourdes Rico Cruz, doctora Mirna Esperanza, Porfirio Campos, el doctor Uriel Luis Zamora, a la doctora Mary Grace Killian Reyes por haber elegido nuestra sede para realizar esta asamblea y reunión nacional. Agradecemos mucho a los conferencistas y que hayan aceptado nuestra invitación. Aquí tenemos al doctor Steve mismo. Muchísimas gracias por haber aceptado. Y ponentes que nos estuvieron siguiendo, nos estuvieron aquí de manera presencial o siguiéndonos de manera virtual. Tuvimos personas de Argentina, Perú, Estados Unidos, Finlandia y de estados como Guanajuato, Colima, Veracruz, Ciudad de México, Estado de México, Puebla, Hidalgo, Guerrero, Nueva León, Jalisco, Querétaro. Y obviamente también aquí nuestros estudiantes y catedráticos de esta facultad. Muchísimas gracias por asistir. Y pues ahora vamos a dar clausura a este evento. Les agradeceré si se pueden poner de pie, por favor. Bueno, siendo las 2:37, hacemos la clausura oficial de este evento. Y los esperamos a nuestro segundo congreso el próximo año del mes de abril. Bien, muchas gracias a todos.
Agradecemos la presencia de los distinguidos miembros del presidium y a todos los que nos han acompañado el día de hoy presencial y virtual. Esperamos verles en el segundo Congreso Internacional de Investigación y Docencia en Lenguas Modernas. Gracias a todos, que tengan muy buenas tardes. En un momento llevaremos más a la rifa. Les pedimos a todos que gracias.
Sí, sí, sí.